This is The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield from the Lynn Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Michael provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield, and I'm Tana Pennington.
Mahalo.
It's been a while, but we're back.
What? It's been a while for
Yeah.
you. I've done many regular videos lately. Yes, Tana's
I wish
back.
I could say
Anna,
I was doing fun things, but I was
a
not.
tree fell on her fence.
That is true.
And she got really sick and lost her voice. Which some of you,
did.
fun fact, will remember that I've lost my voice 2 or 3 times in the last year. So this is only starting to represent that Tana obviously talks too much.
It's true. It's very true.
Really
I've put a lot of strain on my voice.
All right. You gotta stop yelling at all those men in your life.
All right.
Well, welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have gotten some emails and some questions about your son's health. So hopefully he's doing better, unless you want to give a
Definitely
public service announcement on that.
Yeah, he is progressing, making feeling a lot better each day. But time will definitely be on his favor. It just is going to take a while for everything to start working again.
Hopefully back to normal.
He's doing good. Thanks for the concern and thoughts.
So what's the GoFundMe page for him to send?
No GoFundMe.
What? I'm thinking about having
terrible.
I'm gonna start a GoFundMe page. So for some Bosley hair plugs. Don't you guys want to see me with hair? Let's crowdsource it.
No.
All
No.
right, whatever. We got to get down to business. This is a short and sweet video, but important things going on in the world. Tan and I were just debating this, my goodness, on Friday, and it was kind of laughable. One of the things that happens with economic data is when the quarter ends, initial reports come out of like GDP and employment and all this economic data. And then what happens is for a few months, every 30 days, it gets revised. Well, guess what? No one ever talks about. They never talk about the actual revisions because everybody's so busy looking at the next thing, right? We're so sensory overloaded that, no one's really talking about what's happening. So it was very interesting. When Tana pushed this over to me last week, we finally got the next revision on first quarter GDP.
Mm-hmm.
So first quarter GDP was estimated at 1.6%. Well, the new revision is now 1.3. Now, Tana, do you think that would be good or bad if GDP is declining in our country? Quiz question.
That would be bad.
That would be bad, right?
Yeah.
This is gross domestic product, the cost of goods and services added up. Declining GDP, obviously, is problematic. This gets into those words of like, where does the theme of some kind of recession or something come into place if GDP declined too much?
Right.
The textbook version of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. We're certainly not there yet, but it's all kind of, the mystery meat, right? What's the best place with mystery meat? Maybe what's ever in the tacos at Jack in the Box. That's some weird mystery meat. The problem that our GDP has is it's so propped up right now on government spending, gross overspending, that what is the real GDP? Who knows anymore?
Right.
The government is massively overspending. This is something we've talked about a lot in the last couple of years. So it's going down. What's more entertaining about it is the Atlanta Federal Reserve, which we come onto occasionally. They use high frequency data. Ooh, I got to click the proceed button on their website. So that way they can track us. They like to use high frequency data to do real-time forecasting of what they think current quarter GDP is. Right. And so as much as the first quarter GDP revision just came out and it's going down, you're like, oh, that stinks. Second quarter GDP was like strong. A month ago, it was over 4%. If you can see this on the screen, that green line is the estimate. And so for like a month or so, it was over 4%. You're like, wow, Second quarter GDP is on fire. And then like a week ago, it was estimated at 3.5%. And then they just revised it on Friday down to 2.7. I just thought that was kind of interesting that it's weird that all of the GDP numbers are all quietly going down, and to go from 4% to 3.5 to 2.7, those are pretty significant lurches down. Like something behind the scenes doesn't seem as rosy as one would think. So anyways, just thought that was a fun fact, a point of interest. Once again, as we talk about what's the Federal Reserve going to do, remember, three-legged stool this year. What's the Fed going to do? We got a presidential election happening. And what are those pesky earnings things going to do, right? These are that really drive the market. There's been a lot of focus on the Feds, right? Because as we've talked about it in earlier videos, inflation data has come out. It's still a little too hot. It's not really trending in the right direction. I think based on the last inflation report I talked about, if the current trajectory of that report was what the true inflation trajectory was, it would take like 2 years for the Feds to hit their 2% target at this point. Like inflation ain't coming down fast enough. So we shall see. Now, Tana, I'm over talking again. I don't know. It's because you don't have a voice. I'm actually.
You're doing me a favor
by not making you talk too much.
Yeah.
But it's funny. As Tana and I were talking about this morning, the first thing she said is, "Well, what's the stupid CME thing say?" And so remember, we show this tool a lot, right? This is kind of the interest rate bond traders estimating and predicting what's going to happen with rate changes. And so here in the June 12th meeting, which is coming up pretty quick, 10 days ish. There's basically a 100% chance the Feds will not be cutting this month. Unfortunately, inflation data does not support it. Now, what's funny is there's other reasons the Feds could cut. You could still have a little higher inflation, but if the Feds thought the economy was falling apart, hey, I don't know, maybe declining GDP. There's some other scenarios where they could start considering those rate cuts. You shoot to July. Not looking good for July all of a sudden, right? The Feds have this pickle, and the pickle is they want to cut. Cutting would be lovely and nice, but the problem is if you cut too soon, do we create hyperinflation? September, right? This is like July is the normal line in the sand. September is like the absolute line in the sand for trying to help the election purposes. And so you're still sitting in a scenario where in September, there's about a 60% prediction at the moment that there could be a rate cut. So September is kind of where you start to see it breaking apart just because remember, everyone's got everything crossed that all that inflation data comes down and nothing bad's going to happen. I don't know. Has the price of brisket in Texas gone up? I mean, isn't that how we measure things?
No, I mean, we're feeling it out here. There's definitely food is more expensive and our gas is
$2.89 instead of $2.49 a pound.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird how inexpensive brisket can be?
I know.
It's funny because it's so good, but if you don't cook it right,
you got to cook it a long time.
Might as well eat your belt. By November, everything's leaning that way, right? There's a 70+% chance of rate cuts by December at the moment, which is estimating out pretty far, about a 90% chance of a rate cut. So, we'll see what happens. Obviously, we'll keep watching this. Like I said, there's these countervailing factors. Factor one being they want inflation to come down. That's the obvious basic goal. But subset two is if the Feds start to see an erosion in the economy, declining GDP, unemployment going up, those types of things, that could be a separate catalyst for them to cut. Either way, it's a problem because if they can't cut soon, that interest on the debt I keep talking about, it's now, I just read a thing. It's officially estimated by the end of this year to be more than we spend on defense. The interest on the credit card, not even paying the credit card off, just paying the monthly interest charge on your credit card is more than we spend on defense. That is wild. And it's amazing because it's up like 150% or something from like a year ago. I mean, it's just crazy. What a problem. Anyways, if you don't like higher costs, fees, things like that, California definitely doesn't care what you think. Now, Tana, right? This is like Beverly Hillbillies. You picture that black and white intro, the car all loaded up. Except they didn't go to Beverly Hills. They went the other way. And so, she got out honestly, hindsight's 2020, Tana. You moved at the best time. Real estate was still relatively inexpensive.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a temporary job. You went out there and said, what? Why would I come back, man? It's crazy. By the way, you tricked me, but that's a separate.
No, I did not trick you.
You totally tricked us. But that's
we kept our home in Camarillo because we felt like we were coming back.
You instantly when you left, but you told us you were coming back. So then
you can always fire me now. It's never too late.
Us. I'm going to fire myself, I think, and you guys can deal with this. So California's got a couple of things going on that I thought were entertaining and just kind of things to talk about when you're hanging out with your friends on Friday night, deciding, what to eat. So California is the front runner of pushing electric cars, right? We all know that in the United States. They've mandated by 2035, no new gas-powered vehicles can be sold in California. It has to be full electric. Obviously, there's some challenges with this. I mean, challenge one is the better part of half of California lives in some kind of apartment or condo. So you start to say, well, wait a second, where down the road are these people going to be charging these vehicles if they don't have garages, people park on the street, things like that, right? That's problematic. My solution, every new car comes with a 1,000-foot extension cord, right? Then you go plug it in somewhere over there and down the street. I guess every new car should come with a roll of duct tape so they can tape it to the sidewalk too.
No. That's terrible.
Well, I don't know what they're going to do. They would have needed to have started 10 years ago building the infrastructure to support this in thought, but separate issue. So the problem though is California loves to pass things without really checking the math first and making sure it's going to even logistically work well. And so already there's an erosion in gas tax revenue. And they're like, crudsickles, we spend $8 billion a year fixing the roads. And then everybody that watches this video laughs. They're like, fixes the roads? Has anyone driven around Ventura lately? You need 4-wheel drive on half of the main streets. I drove up, the right side of Victoria up towards by your dad's house.
Yeah.
Going to Poinsettia most mornings.
Yeah.
And that right lane, holy
terrible.
Moly. There's so many potholes. No matter what you try to swerve, it's just terrible. So anyway, so that's a problem. And so Caltrans is doing this pilot program where they're going to charge somewhere between 2 and 4 cents a mile that people drive. And they're just piloting it right now to see if they can come up with a different solution to basically charging you per mileage, which is interesting because they're talking about potentially putting little chips in all the cars that you plug in so they can keep track of all your driving and mileage. They're talking about some kind of honor system where you got to turn in your odometer readings once a month. It's a kind of a kooky mess.
Yeah.
This applies at the moment to gas and electric cars. So now you're like, well, wait a second. I didn't buy the electric car. I'm still paying the gas taxes.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one. So we'll see how that shapes out. But kind of a new tax. The other thing is, I believe there's a new law that I brought up for next year where there's going to be the actual gas tax will have a 50-cent increase on it. So that's just a separate thing. Don't worry about that one. And then we have income-based electricity, right? So this is kind of the hot new thing in California. Now I found this law a little confusing because California already subsidizes low income. There's the CARES credits where through your electric and water and things like that, you can apply and get somewhere between, I think, a 20 and 30% reduction in your energy costs. So we already kind of have the subsidization in place, but the argument is we can kind of make this equity-based pricing as a base fee on on everything to kind of help normalize things. And so, here you kind of see it in the tentative offer. If you make over 180 grand, which I know is a lot of money, but honestly, if there's 2 people working full time in a household in California, there's a lot of people hitting this limit. But they would do a $85 per month kind of, the way I understand it, kind of a base rate on your on your bill, and then they would add your usage on top of that. So they have these kind of monthly flat bills based on your income levels. So California always trying to figure out how to solve their budget deficit, which is the better part of $30 billion. How much is Texas's budget deficit, by the way?
I'd have to look that up. I don't know.
Oh, they don't have one. That's why you'd have to look it up. It's kind of the irony of stuff like that, right? So Anyways, I don't know. That's kind of all I want to talk about. Is there anything exciting going on in Medicare? It's mid-year, probably not.
Yeah, nothing exciting yet.
All right, so nothing we got to do there. No new fancy Social Security law changes. Obviously, we should do probably a new show on it. The kind of the updated proposals of how to fix Social Security funding shortfalls. They're talking about increasing. I just read a new proposal over the weekend. They're talking about increasing the payroll tax in totality 3.5%. So they split it between the employer-employee. Now, since I'm self-employed and Tana's technically self-employed, we just pay the whole thing. So it's just another tax. So I'll throw that on top of my electricity bill, throw that on top of my driving usage thing. Now, for clarity, though, Tana, I'm paying for the weather and you're not. So there's that.
Oh, okay.
So
we have pretty good weather out here.
Everybody, hopefully this was just a light and airy video. The world's melting down. They convicted Trump of 34 felony counts. I realized, I was telling someone the other day, it's like, I don't care if you like Trump or not. That should have nothing to do with it. You should be very concerned on how the justice system is working, because if you spent any time reading the case and the law behind it, not the theatrics of the case and the way it was presented, but the legality of the way that it came together. And you have a state prosecutor, attorney general trying to do federal crime prosecute, like the whole thing, even from a jurisdictional thing, is a total mess. And it should be a little terrifying that, justice system can go after anybody they want at this point. So anyways, on that note, everybody have a great week. We will be back next week. And Tana, thank you for coming back. I'm going to let you do some more talking next time if I'm nice.
Sounds good.